Two talented brothers, Mark and Tony Poletti, are being inducted together into the Montrose Sports and Community Hall of Fame class of 2023 for their athletic achievements during high school and college. Just 3 years apart allowed them to run on successful cross-country and track teams together, then excelled on the wrestling mat. Tony, class of 1977, was an extremely successful two-time individual state wrestling champion and became a high school All-American. Mark, class of 1974, developed into a thriving wrestler for Lake Superior State College, where he became an NAIA and NCAA All-American, placing at Division II national tournaments. Tony was a standout wrestler on a team of standout wrestlers. He won more matches in 4 years of varsity wrestling than any other wrestler in the nation had ever accomplished, setting a new national record for 159 wins. Had he not been in the tragic fatal auto collision on February 2, 1974, his freshman year, many believe that Tony would have been Montrose's first four-time state champion. That disastrous accident took the life of senior wrestler Stuart Curry that day, and Tony was declared to have less than 50% chance of survival. Stuart's parents were Jack, a Montrose Middle School principal, and Ellen, a Montrose High School English teacher. It was a very dark day in the Montrose community. The Montrose Rams lost 3 starters that day as well: Tony, Mark, and Asel Lavery. Yet they still managed to place second in the state a month later. Tony's record as a freshman was 27-1. He pinned the only guy that beat him the weekend after his loss. Mark Poletti led the team with the most wins and pins before the accident at that point, with a record of 28-1. Asel Lavery was a 4-year starter and looked like a sure state placer leading up to that accident. Asel was a senior with a 24-5 record at the time of the accident. Tony was on the 1975, 76, and 77 state championship wrestling teams that made history, winning states 3 consecutive years. Tony and Mark were honorary members of the Francis Bentley Genesee County All-Star Team in 1974. Tony was still on crutches, but Mark remembers that moment as a highlight of their time together that year on the 74 team. Tony recovered his sophomore year and became a force to be reckoned with by placing 5th at the individual wrestling state tournament. Tony won his first state championship his junior year over two-time defending state champion John Burdick of Comstock Park in stunning fashion. Mark recalls, "That was the most amazing match I've ever seen to this day, even though Tony had injured his shoulder in the semifinals." Jerry Silva also recalls that moment like it was yesterday. Tony just naturally picked the guy up with his not-so-weak left arm and won his first state championship. He raised his arms in victory, winning his first state championship on his birthday. Tony came back his senior year and won another individual state championship title. Tony also won the Tournament of Champions, where the best in class A, B, C, and D wrestled, and was named on the Detroit News State All-Star First Team for the entire state of Michigan for all classes. He was also named to the High School All-American team. Tony ran with the 1974 cross-country team that placed 3rd in the state, and he pole vaulted for the Rams track team. Tony was also a member of the National Honor Society. In high school, Mark was captain of both the 1974 cross-country team that took 3rd in the state and the 1974 state runner-up wrestling team. He was voted most outstanding wrestler that year as well. The Rams won the league championship during all 4 years of Mark's high school career. Mark was named to the Genesee County All-Star team 3 times and was an honorary member after the accident. Mark also played in the band and was a member of the National Honor Society. He won his first varsity letter as a freshman in track. Mark cut so much weight during high school to get to 98 pounds as a junior. He realized the weight he gained after the accident, even with his mouth wired shut from the broken jaw he suffered, that he didn't care to work at losing weight anymore in college. As a result, he went from a 112-pounder to 142 pounds over the summer before his first year of college. He found a returning D1 national champ, Don Ron, at his new 142 weight class at Clarion State in Pennsylvania. With some confusion over money at Clarion over the Christmas break, he was approached by Jerry Hoffman, the new wrestling coach at Saginaw Valley. Hoffman told Mark that he qualified for financial aid due to his parents being laid off. So Mark picked up his stuff over break and went to Saginaw Valley State. In his first year of eligibility, Mark won the Great Lakes Intercollegiate Conference. Later, he went to NAIA Nationals in Edinburgh, where a coach from Lake Superior said some very kind words. Now with his parents working again, and Saginaw Valley not having wrestling scholarship money, he needed to find money, which led Mark to call Lake Superior coach Jim Fallis to see if they had aid. Mark finally got his full ride to wrestle in college, and he made the most of finishing his undergrad as a Laker. After that, Montrose wrestlers started getting noticed in the college ranks, with Mark's efforts and Dave and Dan Severin's success. Scholarships were being offered without having to enter the transfer portal. Mark said, "I practically invented it, having wrestled at 3 colleges." He also invented a wrestling move in high school that won him college matches, including pinning a future D2 national champ. Interestingly, when Mark later practiced chiropractic in Colorado Springs, he treated the head of the Olympic Wrestling Committee and asked him if he had ever seen the move before. He said no. So we have a move called the Poletti move. In college, Mark placed 5th at NAIA Nationals in 1977 at 142 pounds in Spokane. He was 1 match away from placing in 1978 at 150 pounds, and then placed 5th in the NAIA Nationals in 1979 in Wheeling, West Virginia. He also was an NCAA 2 All-American at Brookings, South Dakota in 1979, taking 7th place. Mark won Most Valuable Wrestler at Saginaw Valley State and most pins. At Lake Superior State, he was voted Best Student in the Bachelor of Science program, Sports and Recreation Management, and won the Coaches Award for All-Around Athlete in 1979. Tony, after being offered many collegiate scholarships from the likes of Arizona State and the academic Columbia University, decided to join his brother Mark at Lake Superior State College. The Poletti brothers were the first set of brothers to wrestle for Lake State. Mark graduated from Lake Superior State in 1979 and Life Chiropractic College in 1986. After Tony re-injured his shoulder wrestling in college, he decided to pursue the building trades as a carpenter. Tony and Mark were inspired by their older sister Rose, who was goalie for the Rams speedball team that claimed the league championship and was also on the 1974 girls track team that became Montrose's first state champion team. Their father, Richard, was a 1952 Montrose graduate and was the class salutatorian. The Poletti family consisted of Richard, mother, Mary, oldest, Rose, class of 1974, Mark, class of 1974, Tina, class of 1976, and Tony, class of 1977. The Poletti family were members of the Flint Photography Club and had a darkroom in their garage, which Tony loved. They were also in the Flint Canoe Club. The Poletti family liked the out-of-doors and camped every summer. They often took weekend road trips to Pinconning to buy cheese and sausage, then continued to Tawas to walk the pier. It was Mr. Poletti's dream to get a sailboat. He could identify all of them as the family walked the pier. His dream later materialized when he bought a sailboat that he kept in Standish and later in Muskegon. Their dad's desire was passed down to both sons, who also got sailboats, motorboats, kayaks, paddleboards, and learned to windsurf. Tony had 8 boats at one point. Mark moved to Muskegon and is a member of the yacht club and keeps a small catamaran there. Mark practiced chiropractic in Toledo, Colorado Springs, and Boulder, Colorado before moving back to Michigan in 1998. He practiced in East Lansing for over 20 years. He was voted Best Chiropractor in Lansing. Now he does mobile chiropractic with company and home visits. Sadly, Tony lost his life on April 20th, 2018, after a shoulder surgery at the University of Iowa. He left his wife Linda and daughter Sarah, who live in Fairfield, Iowa. Tony was married to Linda in Trinidad, her home country. Sarah attends Fairfield High in Iowa, where she loves acting. Tony loved his boats and loved sailing. He was quite a painter. He used wall mud to paint wild impressions everywhere, including the ceiling. Move over, Michelangelo. Mark has one son, John, age 22, who has applied to the famous Berklee School of Music in Boston. Mark lives in Muskegon and is an avid cyclist. He manages a Facebook page called Sharkless Sea, where he promotes adventure tourism in Michigan, expressing his family's love of nature and photography. He goes by Dr. Michigan. Mark also manages the Montrose Rams Wrestling Facebook group, chronicling the early Ram wrestling program and Coach Tom Castile's teams. He coaches wrestling at East Lansing K-8 My Way. Mark also enjoys making pancakes for the homeless, a venture he undertook during COVID. He also participates in fundraisers and supports the Muskegon Food Pantry. Mark enjoys attending special events with his Lake State coach Jim Fallis and former teammates whenever he can. Mark shared that all of this would have been impossible, in fact unthinkable, had it not been for Coach Tom Castile. Coach Castile could see our potential when we couldn't. I was a 5-foot, 90-pound freshman playing football for Coach Castile. Our team was winless at 0-7. My goals to win a scholarship in sports looked dim at that point. But Coach Castile saw my potential as he did with so many of us, and he recruited us to wrestle. He instilled a work ethic, discipline, relentlessness, and belief that we were special. Coach Castile made his wrestlers believe they could be something great, and many did. Teammate Don Kraviak said before Coach's funeral earlier this year, Coach Castile had us believe we could do far more than we ever believed we could do ourselves. Mark and Tony were at the beginning of the Montrose wrestling program and were part of the meteoric trajectory that saw a fledgling program that started in 1968. They became league champions each year that Mark attended high school. Tony's teams won states 3 consecutive years and placed second the other year. Mark and Tony were foundational to early success of the Montrose wrestling program, leaving their imprint on countless Ram wrestlers who succeeded them. Their success in athletics, family, and careers are again a reminder of the strength and spirit of the Montrose community. It is with great pride that we celebrate the Poletti brothers, Mark and Tony, with their well-deserved induction into the 2023 Montrose Sports and Community Hall of Fame.